Fox 5 and Hot 97 present Street Soldiers with Lisa Evers.
I'm so glad you're joining us for this episode of Street Soldiers on Teens and Guns. I'm your host, Lisa Evers. You know, we're seeing continuing incidents of gun violence involving children and youth under 18. While the number of overall shootings is going down in New York City, so is the age of the trigger pullers. In Newark, the cold-blooded killing of a police officer was allegedly done by a 14-year-old boy. Why is this happening, and what can be done to prevent our youth from taking lives and ruining their own? This surveillance video obtained by Fox 5 shows teens running from the scene of a tragic police shootout in Newark, New Jersey. The deadly gun violence took the life of 26-year-old Detective Joseph Ascona and wounded his partner, who were investigating reports of teens with guns. Residents were stunned, as was Newark's mayor.
What is a 14-year-old doing with a gun?
They feel like they need to resolve their conflicts with guns and weapons on the street. We just have to do a better job.
Officials say the teen took aim and fired into the unmarked vehicle before the officers had any chance to get out.
If you're taking someone's life, that family's suffering. So if you're taking a life and you have a prior record like this kid did, you know, he should have been in jail. He had 15 priors at 14 years old. He shouldn't have been on the street. You know, that's the bottom line.
In New York City, shootings overall are sharply declining. 1,000 guns were taken off the streets in the first 9 weeks of 2025.
We're making today's announcement here at the 7-5 precinct in a borough where shootings have now reached their lowest levels in recorded history.
Also trending downward is the average age of shooters, dipping for the first time to under 20. The NYPD says it is now 19, the youngest age ever. Community leader and youth mentor Tamik Floyd says music videos and social media normalize gun violence, but fears about their own safety play an even bigger role in why boys pick up a gun.
It's cool to, say you have a gun, but a lot of the times they're afraid. These kids with guns are afraid, right? And I'm not justifying why they have guns. They shouldn't have guns, but this is the reason why they have guns, because other kids, they age, 13, 14-year-olds, they're trying to murder them.
The Youth Advocates Program in New Jersey, known as YAP, works with teens who get in trouble with the law. They have comprehensive programs to turn their lives around before it's too late. No matter how much support they provide, they cannot succeed if the teen's family is not on board, says Program Director Emmanuel Shoemate.
We have to have the buy-in from the parents. If the parents are not buying in, we're going to have a tougher situation, because the kids are pretty much going to say, well, I don't listen to my mom and dad, so why am I going to listen to you?
Let's get right to this topic with our panel. Joining me is Emmanuel Shoemate. He's the Program Director of YAP. Emmanuel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We really appreciate it. Also with us is Tamik Floyd. He's the CEO of 3 Keys Sports Management. He's also a community leader, very active in Brooklyn, also with his mentorship programs for the youth. Tamik, great to have you with us.
Grateful to be a part of this conversation.
Thank you so much. Also with us is Paul DiGiacomo. He's the former president of the DEA, the Detectives Endowment Association. Paul, great to have you again. Thank you for being with us.
It was a pleasure, Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, when you first heard about this tragedy that happened in Newark with the 14-year-old charged with shooting and killing a police officer and wounding his partner, what did you think when you heard the age of the alleged suspect?
Well, first, I just want to, extend my condolences to the family of Joseph Ascona. But, the problem is that, the laws that have been enacted over the last few years have emboldened a lot of the criminal element and, emboldened younger children to get involved in criminal activity where before they wouldn't, because there's no consequences anymore. A child 14 years old should not be playing with guns. He should be playing with footballs and basketballs and having a good time at that age. To have a gun at 14 years old and use the gun, there had to be someone schooling him in the wrong direction, in my opinion.
Emmanuel, you work in the New Jersey communities. What was your reaction when you heard about the age in particular of that young man?
Yes, Lisa. First, we at Youth Advocate Programs like to definitely send out our condolences to the family of Detective Joseph Ascona and everyone that was affected by this tragic event. It left me, Lisa, I was just at a standstill. when I was home and I got the news, and it was definitely just alarming and disheartening because we hear situations over and over again. But at that age, 14, you know, like Paul said, you could be playing basketball, you could be playing soccer, you could be playing football, but to have a gun and to actually shoot someone whose duty is to protect and serve, it hurts. And now this youth, he has now, because of the decision that he made, negative consequences now, so his life will never ever be the same. And this is why violence prevention programs like youth advocate programs are so necessary in our communities.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. There's a lot that needs to be done. To me, when
absolutely.
you hear about 14-year-olds, you've been on our show before and talked about like the reality for these 12, 13, and 14-year-olds, especially in the under-resourced and underserved communities, is a very different reality than even many of their parents had growing up there. Tell us what you think about this drop in the age.
A lot of these kids, they just adapt to what they see, right? Their outlook is not very promising. So for a 14-year-old to be involved in a violent and act of that nature is just sad because he killed his dream before he even know what a dream is, right? It's our nature to adapt to what we see, to what we exposed to, and most of the time the kids are exposed to negativity. There's not a lot of productivity in underserved communities. Unfortunately, situations like this play out time and time again because of what's seen and what's promoted in our communities.
So do you think it's a culture, like the cultural influences?
100% of culture influence. And a culture thing because at 14, a lot of these kids they have to carry firearms, right? And I say have to because they don't want to end up on the news, their life being taken. They have real issues with other kids from other neighborhoods that are trying to kill them. So they walk around with protection, and unfortunately, an officer was wounded, and because he's just doing the right thing, trying to protect his community. But these kids it's just like the blind leading the blind. It's a sad situation. 2 lives is lost.
Much more coming up after this.
There's a lot of gun violence out there, and I think we have to get a handle on it before more young officers and law enforcement lose their lives, and young people in the communities lose their lives.
Paul, you've long been a critic of these laws where you feel put children in jeopardy. Explain that to us.
Well, absolutely. Many of the pro-criminal laws, I call them now, that were passed in the recent years, I think involve the criminal element because there are no consequences. And I think the facts show that. Young kids are getting younger and younger carrying firearms. The criminal element is emboldened in their communities. And the only people that suffer are the good law-abiding citizens throughout the city, throughout New Jersey. And they pay the price sometimes by either being shot intentionally or being shot by stray rounds that are fired from that gun.
To me, what about that? Because you and I have had conversations. There was one Brooklyn story where he said to me, Lisa, how can a 17-year-old have 3 open gun cases or a 15-year-old? And these kids, what effect do you see the laws having on this whole situation?
I think a lot of these laws wasn't fully thought out, right? I think these laws in place, yes, I don't want to just throw a youth in prison and mess his life up, but really killed the account of having accountability, right? There's no accountability whatsoever. If somebody could be on the street with multiple firearm possessions charges and you out in the street, you feel like you could do it. You feel like it's lawless. You can do whatever you want to do, right? And obviously, it's just not a good situation because if I can commit a crime and I know I can get out on an R&R, like you're not holding me accountable, and it really and it's already sad because a lot of these kids, their families, they're not held accountable with their families, right? They come from dysfunctional families. And so it's just a cycle that is making it even a worse thing for kids that don't have anybody to mentor them and show them the right way. And they just going deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole.
Paul, what about to Tamik's point? If they see somebody that's actually going through a revolving door in terms of having a couple of gun charges and they're back out on the streets, what kind of message does that send to the kids?
Well, that there's no consequences and they could do the same. It's been a problem for many, many years. I just completed 42 years in the NYPD.
Wow.
And,
Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. It's been a problem since I became a police officer, where the older gang members or the older drug dealers were giving the younger kids the gun to hold when they were out on their sets or their drug locations, because there were no consequences if the kid got caught. But now there are no consequences for the child or the adult for getting caught because of many of the laws that have been passed that are counterproductive to public safety.
Emmanuel, what do you see happening in New Jersey with this?
So yes, Lisa, in New Jersey right now, currently, for us, we're working with individuals who are involved with the criminal justice system, right? So myself, I sit on the subcommittee for Middlesex County's gun violence initiative. And we talk about situations, talk about the work that we're doing for my program, which is the New Jersey Community Anti-Violence Program. We're located in 5 counties. And so I'm working hand in hand with probation. I'm working hand in hand with the judge, with the prosecutors. I'm working hand in hand with the school systems. We're working collaboratively. They're not just looking to just throw them in jail. They're actually, when they go before the courts, and myself as a program director or my staff as advocates, we go before and give a voice to the voiceless, the kids that feel as though they don't have a voice, to represent for them. The judges are saying, hey, we don't want to just throw them in jail. If they can go into your program for 6 months and complete that program, then that's the alternative to going to jail. And so what happens, we step up to the plate and offer our services, and they join the program. And through 6 months of completion, which some of them may be on probation, if they do a great job, they get a lesser sentence.
But Emmanuel, when you talk about services, what kind of services can you actually offer them?
We have our actual advocate who does services. Advocates do services for the young people as a mentorship, right? We have 24/7 crisis intervention. We have groups which deal with trauma and trigger.
Tamik, what about the trauma for the kids?
It's highly overlooked. You know, a lot of people, they don't come from the background and the situations that we come from, so they overlook it and say, well, you know, you shouldn't handle things a certain way. But if you never taught to how to process grief, right, who are you to judge how we handle things? And I think, like, people have to be more empathetic and have sympathy for people that's in these situations. Like, a good friend of mine had to bury his 16-year-old son several months ago. And
Oh, I'm so sorry.
me just being, you know, just witnessing, you know, a couple of days after his son was murdered, and just to see the pain that he felt and that my community felt, I was speechless, right? And I can't, like, I'm trying to find ways to help, you know, his friends navigate that whole process, you know, because in their mind, they want revenge, right? And it's like, how do I get them not to think like that? But I don't have an answer. But I just think that people, that they just need to be more sympathetic to people that's in these situations, because a lot of these kids don't know. They know right from wrong, but they come from dysfunctional families. And I'm not lessening anything that they do. Like, they do need to be held accountable for the action that they take, but also we need to have some sympathy for these kids.
Emmanuel, do you do follow-up to see, like, are they able to change the trajectory of their life into a more positive direction?
Absolutely, Lisa. We actually have a success story of an individual who actually went down that path with gun charges, right? And so by the court, mandated by the court, they entered to our program. And so with YAP, with Youth Advocate Programs, being that we are a violence prevention program, they were able to receive services as far as individualized service, where we help them to create goals, planning for their 6 months that they're with us, 24/7 intervention, crisis intervention from us. We also have group intervention, which is trauma informed, where they come together with 8 to 10 kids in a small setting, and they have an opportunity for them to release some things that they've been carrying. Through these services, we're seeing that, yes, it works. Yes, because they've been saying that with doing a survey for them, no one's listening, no one's caring. So my thing to them is saying, listen, we're here as YAP individuals, as admin team, we're your village. And I tell them all the time, you have a voice, find it, use it, and make a difference.
Paul, what do you think about that type of a program approach to the young ones?
Oh, absolutely. If you could save a young man, a young woman from going down a path of criminal activity, it benefits everyone, his family, society, the police, less endangered. But I just want to bring out one point as well. In the past year, we've had more cops killed and shot across the United States of America than I think in our history. So, there's a lot of gun violence out there, and there's a lot of, anti-police uh, rhetoric out there where these young men feel emboldened to shoot the people that are there to protect them and their families. And it's a rising concern, I think, for all of us. And I think we have to get a handle on it before more young officers and law enforcement lose their lives, and young people in the communities lose their lives.
Timmy, do these boys have any kind of resources?
Outside of resources, they really need somebody to just listen to them, right? Like Lisa, you know my story. I was just impacted as a young male, college student, college athlete. I lost my scholarship. I went back to my neighborhood with nothing to show for it. And I need somebody to talk to. And I was 21, 22 years old. So imagine a 14, 15-year-old. They don't have nobody to talk to. So yes, we could talk about resources, programming. That's just definitely needed. But more importantly, need somebody, a reason, right? Like if you walk out your building and, you have a drug dealer telling you shouldn't do this, but he's selling drugs, he's not a credible source, right? Obviously, when you talk about resources and everybody want to associate that with funding, that's a whole nother story, right? But being an heir for somebody don't cost you not $1. Yeah, I really try to be an heir and be a role model because they know my story.
Emmanuel, tell us the influence of the culture. Some of the DAs, some of the law enforcement, some of the police have said that, drill rap, that what they see on social media, what they see in some of the music videos, that it normalizes that kind of gun violence. What do you say to that?
It says, Lisa, the quote, art imitates life, right? And so our young people that are being influenced by what they see through social media or the music that they're listening to or from movies, it's definitely having a huge impact. You can have the music, you can have the movies, you can have the social media. That's fine. But if you don't have parents that are there to be as far as support and checking and making sure, hey, what are you listening to? Who are you connected to? Which of course we would think that they would be having that, but they're not. This is strongly impacting our young people with the culture. And just to add to Tamik what he was saying, that's why with YAP, we go after credible messengers. We go to the communities where these kids are from, and we look and we vet for people who actually are looking to make a positive difference. The young people are always saying no one's listening to them. And here at YAP, the first thing that we want them to know is we're here and we are listening, Lisa.